Hi, very good evening. It's Gene from Avstar. Just another Middle East update. What we're looking at is a Eurofighter Typhoon FGR4, actually right now accompanied with other Typhoons and aerial fuel tanker right over the border in Israel, and we know that as soon as the transponders go off, they'll be going up to Lebanon. This is evidence that the mainstream media are not reporting on, that the UK, the United States, France and Italy, as well as a lot of other NATO countries, are directly engaged in this murderous action that is taking place right now in the Middle East. We all have seen the massacre in Gaza. Over 40,000 innocent bystanders murdered by Netanyahu. And he has the audacity to call that recent person that was killed in a recent bombing over the weekend, one of the world's most prolific terrorists. I doubt very much that Hamas leader, or Hamas or Hezbollah leader was, or ever did, murder more than what Netanyahu has in the last 12 months, in his entire life. You know, I'm not a supporter of war of any kind. I am on no sides there other than the civilians, of the innocent populations of these countries. You know, over 1 million people have been displaced. What we're watching is the exact same thing that happened in Gaza now take place in Lebanon. You know, I really feel sorry for what has gone on in Lebanon, because it has had and seen war for the last probably 5 decades, as well as experienced, like we all saw, that massive explosion of that ammonium nitrate accident. It is such a shame to see the kids sleeping on the streets outside their apartments because they're too frightened that they will be blown up by, NATO forces. It's not, listen guys, it's not Israel on their own that are doing this. It's NATO. And our governments aren't telling us what they're doing with our taxpayer money. And if they was to do that, people would be on the streets in London demanding that Keir Starmer be removed by the scruff of his hair out of Parliament. This is an absolute nightmare for everyone involved. I sympathise now with those in the Middle East. And these pilots that are flying these Typhoons haven't got a conscience, and they can't have much common sense either, because our country's not under attack, and their job is to protect the United Kingdom. These ones alone in the Typhoons that work for the Royal Air Force is to protect the United Kingdom, not to be a paid mercenary to drop bombs on civilian targets. You ain't no warriors, I'm telling you now. And if you get shot down over Lebanon or any other region in the Middle East, it's your own fault, because you took the decision, you knew what you was doing, and therefore, you know what, there'll be no sympathy from people like me, because you shouldn't be there to start with. We have no threat from the Lebanese. We have no threat from the Gazans. Yet you are dropping ordnance on them, £2,000 bombs on people that don't even have a weapon. I hope when you get back to your base tonight, you switch on the TV and you see the damage you've caused. And I hope that you rediscover your conscience. Look at them children that you've put in the hospital. This is not... You know what? I don't know why the media are not reporting on the NATO forces that are dropping ordnance in the Middle East. I don't know why they're doing it. Just no wonder why people have lost all trust in mainstream media, because there's no reporting anymore of any sorts. This is pure and simple cloak and dagger behaviour. This isn't about protecting countries. This isn't about using taxpayers' money wisely, as they have a duty to do. This is about profiteering. You know, it's no wonder why they call us crusaders still in the Middle East, because it's the same behaviour. You know, we're there stealing. That's all we're doing. That's what the UK has done throughout its history, is steal. We are getting a bad name for ourselves here in the UK, and likewise all the other European countries. We talk about democracy, there absolutely is none. We talk about diplomacy, where is it? Our politicians come onto the TV and say, "Yo, come on, show some restraint, Netanyahu here. You know, resolve this with diplomacy." And at the same time, they turn round to Netanyahu and say, "You have our force fully behind you, and we will support you with whatever is needed." And of course, they get directed to drop ordnance, and there you just seen one of the transponders go off on one of them Typhoon fighter jets. But this is the aerial refuel tanker, and this is the remaining Eurofighter that hasn't yet turned its transponder off. But as soon as they go into action, they just flick the switch and they go invisible. Absolutely shameful. I mean, guys, you know, I've spent quite a lot of time looking at this today and trying to report the truth to you guys on what is actually taking place, because a lot of you ain't got the time to sit here and search for all these aircraft that are flying for the military ones to prove one point simply, that the media and our governments are blatantly lying to us when they say Israel is doing this, Israel is doing that, because Israel is not capable of doing this without us. And I've proved with what I've shown all day today that what is the case is that NATO forces are engaging in killing innocent civilians in these countries, and they don't care anymore. They don't care if they wipe out 20,000 people to get a dozen so-called bad guys. I want to tell you something. You know what we call terrorists? Over there they call heroes and warriors. Just like us. One man's terrorist is another man's warrior or freedom fighter. I'm sure you've heard that saying before. We've never been so close to a nuclear war. We are much more closer to a nuclear war than we was in the Cuban Missile Crisis. They keep pushing Putin. They think he's not got the balls to fight. They think Iran, and it's like, you know, all you hear on the media is, why hasn't Iran retaliated yet? Why haven't they retaliated? Because maybe they've got the patience of a saint, just like Putin. Has anyone ever given thought to that? Why hasn't he pressed the button yet? Maybe they don't want war. Maybe it's just us. And we demonstrate it. Look at what we're doing right now. It's a shameful time to be part of Europe and NATO forces. They're just being used for the highest bidder. They're just literally mercenaries. None of these pilots got common sense and brains in the head. Do they not realise that they are not protecting the UK right now? I'm talking about the RAF pilots. Do they not realise they are not protecting us in any single way or form? We're not a threat here. Do they not see that Netanyahu is a murderer, a ruthless killer? And what do, these sort of people? They point the finger at everybody else, saying that they're the bad guy. And they come on our mainstream media saying that these people are the bad guys and we got them. You won't hear Netanyahu say, we also, in the act of getting these people, we've killed 1,000. Because, in Lebanon in the last few days, 1,000 people have died. And I think that's an understatement. I think a lot more have. But more than that, 1 million people have been displaced. They're frightened to stay in their homes in case the roof comes through with ordnance exploding above their heads. I think eventually the patience is going to run out on countries like Iran and Russia and China and any other foreign country we may consider being, a threat. And at that point, it might be too late. I'm saying it might just well be too late, and I'm not exaggerating by any means or form here. These people are not afraid of pressing the button, and they are goading leaders of other countries to do so. It is suspected that Iran have now produced enough uranium or weapons grade uranium to at least have 10 nuclear bombs. They boast a massive arsenal of missiles. And the majority of the general public have been pacified by all this because we've seen so much of it over the years. We just shrug our shoulders and say, well, you know what, but we've all got to get on providing the bacon and eggs for the family because, that's what we enjoy for breakfast. Whilst on the other end of the spectrum, there are children sleeping on the streets in Iran right now, probably starving as well. There's a humanitarian crisis unfolding, just like what happened in Gaza. They are trying to push the Iranians past Beirut, and they did this, if you remember, in Gaza at the start of that war. That was their tactic. Push them to the end of the country, and then once you've got them in the refugee camps, just take them out whenever you want. Israel's policy is, if it moves, kill it. That's why so many reporters have been killed in Israel. And I'm not joking that is their policy. If it moves, kill it. And we know now that other typhoon that was accompanying this aerial refuelling station has now knocked its transponder off. So I guess that has now, spun round and is flying in the direction of Lebanon. And the tactics are always the same. It's not just what they did in Gaza, how they managed the people there, but the tactics are the same. Knock out the communication, knock out the leadership, knock out the electricity. Ascertain aerial superiority. They're controlling the airspace over Lebanon at the moment. And there's only one company which is allowed to go into that airspace. So that people who can afford to leave the country and go to another country to reside till it's safe to return. But I think what we're going to see is a repeat of Gaza. Another major humanitarian crisis is actually in effect right now, and the destruction of civilian property is taking place right now. It's just cowardless and shameful. And, you guys need to, spread the word that this is happening, because it's completely unacceptable for, NATO to be involved in this conflict. We shouldn't be supporting them with anything. And maybe it would encourage them to, resolve their issues with diplomacy. They keep going on about these, hostages. You know what? Maybe the reason why they haven't received these hostages back is because Israel has probably shot them or bombed them themselves. Has anyone even thought about that? Why would anyone hold on to hostages for as long as they have and, just watch the destruction get worse and worse? It wouldn't make any sense. And you hear people like Blinken, just return the hostages and we can end this with peace talks. What about if they can't give them hostages back because they're no longer alive? Anyhow, it's the world we're living in nowadays. And this, as more and more people get pacified, as the governments don't listen to the general public of European countries anymore on any scale. They are literally running countries like businesses for the sakes of just a few. The 1% feel that they're entitled to murder and steal the taxpayers' money and labour. And until we wake up and stop it, it will get worse. And just to do nothing doesn't resolve anything. Protest peacefully. Be part of the larger number. But don't do nothing. Guys, I'm going to leave it here. If there is anything major now to report on, I'll bring it to you. Link down there if you want to help support us. And the only thing for me to say is, pray for these people. They're in a situation where they can't help themselves. And as we've just seen there, the aerial refueler has just knocked its transponder off. So it just shows you how they operate. As always, guys, bye for now.